Good morning, Bill Carroll for Zenny 62, 62 Media and Oakland News Now. And I'm going to break down each day this week one of the one of the position groups from the most recent combine. And people use terms like winners and losers, and anyone who gets invited of the 324 people who were there out of tens of thousands of college football players is already a winner. And I don't think losing is something that really happens unless you actually get hurt. But there are people who answer questions and them who either leave questions unanswered or raise more questions. So I'm going to start with the quarterbacks because everybody likes to start with quarterbacks. Malik Willis had already been weighed and measured at the Senior Bowl and, is not significantly different. Came in at 6 feet and a half, 219 pounds, 9.5-inch hands, 31-inch arms. Didn't run, did throw, and as everyone expected, threw well. Probably had the second or third strongest arm there, depending on who you ask. And when I have the actual MPH gun data, I will give that to you. Kenny Pickett, most people's either quarterback 1, 2, or no lower than 3, came in at shaded or 6'3", or right under 6'3", actually. 217 pounds, 8.5-inch hands, which is what everyone's talking about. 30 and 7/8 arms, ran a 4.67 40. And frankly, he compares more to someone like Derek Carr in terms of his ceiling than he does to a lot of the quarterbacks who you've maybe heard thrown out there. He's not going to be Joe Burrow. He's not quite that kind of thrower. And there was a maybe not direct, but there was a pretty strong correlation that it would be hard to write off as coincidence between windy, cold, and wet weather games and some of his worst games on tape. So that probably ties back to the hand size. Sam Howell didn't do much, still recovering from a calf injury, if I remember correctly. It came in just under 6'1", 218 pounds, 9 1/8-inch hands, which is just above the threshold, 30 and 3/4-inch arms. Matt Corral didn't do anything at all, pretty much because he's also coming back from an injury, 6'2", or 6'1" and 5'8", really, 212 pounds, 9 5/8-inch hands, 30 and 3/4-inch arms. One of the quote-unquote surprises, though he didn't surprise me, I've been a big fan of Desmond for a while, came in over 6'3". 211 is still a bit of a concern, but it's 4 pounds heavier than he came in at the Senior Bowl. Long arms for a quarterback, 32 and 3/4 inch, and of course you ran a 4.49 and tested super well in all the other athletic testing. But that wasn't the question about him. The thing that I think he did the best job of was improving and smoothing out his mechanics. He's clearly a hard worker. The questions almost everyone has about him will be consistent accuracy down the field. If he continues to work on this, he goes from being a guy who might be a top flight backup to a guy that could be an NFL starter. Jack Cohen is a guy that I knew would look great in this environment. All of the things he's good at, size and, good arm. I mean, he probably has a top 3 or 4 arm there, but there are definitely still concerns about his ability to be consistent and accurate, and you can't really answer those in a combine environment. But he showed he's a decent enough athlete. I mean, 4.9 40 is not going to, wow anybody, but once again, you're just looking for a guy who shows he can move around. He showed he could do that. Dustin Crum, the exact opposite, right? Moves very well. He's a guy who's not very big, just a shade under 6'1", was 207 earlier in the season, put on 3 pounds of muscle. Every little bit helps, but just not quite enough arm to be an NFL starter, consistently an NFL starter. Caleb Elby has more than enough arm. There's more questions about him, but once again came in a shade under 6'1", 208 pounds, 9 1/4-inch hands, 35-inch arms. So not quite Russell Wilson in terms of the huge hands, long arms, but he makes up for not being the biggest cat in the world by having that. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have Cole Kelly from Southeast Louisiana, who some people have compared to Josh Allen. That's a little rich for my blood, but the kid's almost 6'7", 249 pounds, 9 7/8-inch hands, 33 and 3/4-inch arms. So big guy. Didn't do the full suite of athletic testing, but you can tell he's a decent enough athlete. Eyeballing him, I'd say he's probably in the low to mid 4.7s. D'Eriq King's a really good athlete. Once again, didn't do all the athletic testing. And once again, the question isn't his athletic ability, but he's short. He's 5'9", 196 pounds, 9 1/4-inch hands, which is, above the threshold, but 28 and 7/8-inch arms. I am 5'7" and 5/8", and I have more than 2 inches of arm length on D'Eriq King. And you say, why does that matter for quarterbacks? They're not going to be, locking you out in a blocking situation. Well, when you're a shorter quarterback and you have short arms, it means that passing lanes are even harder for you to find. Brock Purdy came in at just a shade under 6'1", 212 pounds, 9 1/4-inch Hands, 29-inch arms, which again is a little shorter. I mean, I'm once again 5'7" and change, and I have my arms are more than an inch longer than his. 4.76 in the 40. So another guy that will struggle down the field, and also decision making, which you can't really measure in a combine situation, is another big question. Carson Strong had a very good day at the office. Now, once again, people are going to ask about the whole cadaver cartilage thing, and you can't do anything about that, obviously. The medicals was the most important part for him. We didn't get a chance to see that because you can't see that, but some teams going to like him more than most people think. He had probably the second strongest, something up there in the top three. And once again, I'll give you the gun data as soon as I have it, but he has one of the strongest arms there. And then Schuyler Thompson, I won't say it was disappointing his athletic testing, but I thought he'd be a slightly better athlete. I thought he'd be closer to Pickett, and he was actually a 4.86 in the 40, which is not a big deal, but I thought he was, like I said, a better pure athlete. Came in a shade under 6'2", 217 pounds, 9 3/8 inch. Hands, 31 3/4 inch arms, and then Bailey Zappi from Western Kentucky. And I will admit my bias right up front. I like him more than I probably should and more than most people do. Came in a shade under 6'1", 215 pounds, which is a win for him. I worried he might come in lighter. 9 3/4 inch hands, a big win for him, amongst the largest hands there. And once again, people say, why is that a big deal? Well, it's usually not, but it also does correspond to grip strength and security, right? Ball security in the pocket. 31 3/8 inch hands, 4.78 in the 40, which I also consider a win for him. But the problem with him, once again, is on those deep comebacks, on those deep outs, he throws a fine deep ball. Like some people assume that a guy with an arm that's not really strong will struggle with the deep ball. Not so much. I mean, once again, look at the career of Drew Brees. It's those deep throws outside the numbers that are flat throws, not, balls that you're putting a lot of air under. He will always struggle with those, though I think he's worked on it. I think he's put on a little muscle. So he came in, looking good. And once again, probably a high-level backup. And I'll deal with running backs when we reconvene tomorrow.